thing on.
I mean, you kind of have to get on, like...
It's so far away.
Yeah, can you pull it towards you? There you go. There you go.
It's my first rodeo.
Okay.
Fuck.
All right, welcome back to the Ghosted Girls podcast. How y'all doing today? Hello? Is anyone there? Hello. Alicia's doing her mascara.
With no mirror.
That's a really bad idea.
Watch.
Just FYI.
This is how good I am.
You're going to poke yourself right in the eyeball.
Already happened.
Well,
Twice.
This is just great. I'm going to start this off by saying that I lied. Remember how I said the next one I was going to work on was going to be a happy one? This isn't. I lied.
Fuck you, Christina.
I know. I'm sorry, but you guys, everyone loved the Paul and Carla series so much that I was like, I gotta keep this momentum going.
Everybody just loves murder, you sick weirdos.
I know. God, you guys are so fucking gross.
So
like,
gross.
how could anyone listen to a murder podcast?
I don't know, but we love you for it.
Just kidding. I love it too. So anywho. Yeah, we left off.
We didn't leave off anywhere, Christina.
No.
You know why?
See, I'm so like, I'm still coming off of the
Episode number
pollen.
5.
I know. No, I promise I will not put you guys through that, or myself, or anyone, because damn.
Yeah. Or Khaleesi. Khaleesi, can I get a... Hey, did you poop today? You didn't?
Well, this podcast is fucking riveting.
Did your mommy feed you? She didn't? And then what happened? What? Oh my God. Binks was there too?
Well, this is fucking great. So
there was a rabbit outside? Did you chase it? Oh, the squirrel. You chased the squirrel.
all right. So I figured I'd keep up with the theme in like talking about really shitty women.
Okay. Girl power.
Yeah, right. Listen, I'm a girl's girl, but there's certain females that I can't get behind, and this is one of them. Today, we are going to talk about the youngest woman to ever be placed on death row.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Christa Pike.
I have not heard of her.
Yeah. I'm going to start things off by talking about her victim. The reason for Christa's claim to fame as the youngest woman on death row is her victim, Colleen Slemmer. I'm going to preface this by saying that the murder of Colleen Slemmer is severely overshadowed by her murderer. And that's because, to put it bluntly, Christa Pike is just a huge piece of shit. She's awful.
Like Carla level piece of shit?
I would say Carla's probably worse, but Krista's bad too. She's bad. If you Google Colleen Slemmer, pretty much all of the articles that you're going to find focus solely on her murderer, Christa Pike, aside from some very like minuscule details about the actual victim of the case, which is frustrating. I feel like so many of these cases focus very heavily on the criminal or the murderer, and the memory of the victim as well as the victim's families, they suffer as a result. I will try to do this as much justice as I can, but again, Christa Pike was made to be somewhat of a celebrity in this case, and there is absolutely no shortage of information about her available. Probably because Krista's an absolute shit show, both prior to the murder and also her life afterwards in prison. She's also one of the most famous women ever incarcerated due to her title as the youngest woman ever put on death row. And she's currently the only female on death row in the entire state of Tennessee.
Oh.
So yeah, it's a big deal. But we can't forget the reason why we are even talking about Christa Pike in the first place. And that reason is the absolute fucking horrific murder of Colleen Slemmer. And disclaimer, this one's rough.
Of course it is.
Yeah. Colleen Ann Slemmer was born on September 20, 1975 in Bucks County, Pennsylvania.
Oh, it's close.
Yeah, to Mae Martinez. Sadly, her parents separated when she was young. Her mother did, however, end up marrying a man who, by all accounts, became an amazing stepfather to Colleen, and she had a very good, loving relationship with both her mother and her stepfather. Now, the entire family ended up moving to Orange Park in Florida, and Colleen, although she did well there socially, struggled in academics. Some sources say that she had some kind of a learning disability, which made reading more difficult for her. And that caused her to get so frustrated that she actually dropped out of high school before she was able to graduate.
Oh, that sucks.
And it's sad. Colleen ended up working in the fast food industry, but she didn't want to do this for the rest of her life. And she started looking for other ways to obtain an education before deciding on Job Corps. Remember Job Corps?
I do, yes.
And just a little bit about Job Corps for anyone who has never heard of this before. Job Corps is a career training center that is funded by the government and was designed to teach specific trades to underprivileged individuals between the ages of 16 and 24. And it actually provided housing as well. So the kids could live there, go to classes, etc. Job Corps started out with the best intentions, but soon ended up as somewhat of a dumping ground for troubled teens and violent youths. Colleen and her family, they weren't aware of this, and in the summer of 1994, Colleen packed her bags and left for Knoxville, Tennessee to join the Job Corps computer training program. She was really trying to better herself. And
it sounds like it.
Yeah. And when Colleen got there, she was not impressed. It was pretty disappointing.
Oh.
The Job Corps building in Knoxville, Tennessee was essentially a decrepit motel complex. Like it was an old ass Holiday Inn that had been revamped into a makeshift school compound. The dorm walls were painted black and the ceilings were painted purple. There was little to no supervision, and kids were just running up and down the halls screaming obscenities. There were like gang symbols written on the walls. It was like a glorified jail for teenagers, basically. But Colleen had signed a contract with them, and she had to stick it out for, I believe it was 6 months.
Poor thing.
I know. Almost immediately after arriving, Colleen had begun to be bullied by a small group of kids led by a frizzy-haired, moon-faced little bitch named Christa Pike. And now we are going to pivot to the diarrhea shit stain in the underwear of humanity that is Christa Pike.
Gross.
Christa Gale Pike was born on March 10, 1976 to parents Glenn and Carissa Pike in Buckley, West Virginia. And it's safe to say that Christa was pretty much fucked from the moment she was even conceived. She had just absolutely zero chance in life. Her mother was a severe alcoholic and allegedly drank alcohol throughout her entire pregnancy, which led to Christa being born prematurely and spending days in the NICU. According to family and friends, Christa never really established that ever so important mother/child bond with her mother, and they had a very odd relationship. Now, again, Christa's mother was an alcoholic, but she was actually able to keep 2 jobs, one of them being a nurse, which is pretty mind-blowing that she was able to hang on to that type of career while also being an alcoholic, right?
Yeah, that's...
So she was essentially a functioning alcoholic.
That's talent, I guess, if you want to call it that.
We'll give her that. Christa's mother wasn't really interested in the whole parent thing, and she spent most of her time going out and meeting men because at this point, Christa's parents were divorced, and her father was pretty much non-existent at this point. So here we have a mother that's neglectful, and we have a father that isn't there at all.
Great.
Not a good start.
No.
This led to a variety of men in and out of the home, And it's alleged that Christa was sexually assaulted multiple times, with the first being when she was still in diapers, which is absolutely horrific. That's awful. And this is where, I said in the Paul and Carla podcast, like, it's okay to feel bad for that version of them.
Right.
But not like who they become, if that makes sense.
100%, because that sucks.
Yeah. Carissa, Christa's mother, being pretty busy with her extracurricular activities of drinking, smoking pot, and dating numerous men, didn't have much time for Christa, and thus dumped her off with her mother, Zola Fodos. Now, Zola was also not a good motherly figure for Christa. She, like her daughter, was also an alcoholic, and she physically abused Christa, locking her in a closet for long periods of time when she misbehaved, which was quite often, because as you will see, Christa was not exactly an easy child.
Shocker.
Yeah. Christa eventually ended up living with her paternal grandmother, Delpha Pike, when her mother decided to just up and leave the state to live with yet another new boyfriend in North Carolina. Despite her mother completely abandoning her, Christa actually thrived under the care of her grandmother, Delpha. Delpha doted on Christa. She showered her with love. They read books together. They cooked together, all of the things. But Delpha was elderly and also very fragile. And after a long battle with cancer, Delpha Pike eventually succumbed to the disease. Christa, by all accounts, was inconsolable. Yeah. Something in her just snapped when her grandmother died, and she really became incredibly unruly. Christa was then forced to move back in with her mother, and was so stricken with grief over the death of her grandmother that she attempted suicide by overdosing at the age of 8 years old.
Good Lord.
I know.
She's been through all that by 8?
8. Now, instead of, getting mental help for her daughter, Carissa decided that the best approach would be to be friends with her daughter. And the mother and daughter duo did wholesome things together, like smoking marijuana and getting drunk, doing drugs, etc.
At 8.
Yeah, this started at a really young age.
I can't.
Yeah. But try as she might to be her daughter's friend, Christa continued to be completely out of control, and she was then shipped to her father's house for him to deal with. And thus began a continuous back and forth between the parents, who would ship Christa back to the other parents' house when they could no longer tolerate her. So she was just like back and forth, like neither parent really wanted her.
That sucks.
Yeah. Eventually, Christa's father remarried and had a baby girl. Once the 2-year-old girl began showing signs of sexual abuse, Christa's father kicked her out for good and sent her back yet again to her mother's house, and she never came back. It's never been proven, but it is alleged that Christa sexually assaulted her baby sister.
She probably thought that was normal.
And that's a common theme. People that have been sexually abused at a young age, it's higher chance of them becoming sexual abusers themselves. Yeah.
Freaking sucks.
You're right. Faced with the abandonment of her father, Christa began to go downhill even faster. She dropped out of school. She was doing drugs. She was drinking alcohol. She was getting into fights. She was in trouble with the law for shoplifting, and her future looked real fucking bleak.
It sounds like it.
Yeah. So Christa's mother, became so fed up with her that she was like, I can't even deal with this. I'm sending you to Job Corps. And in the summer of 1994, Christa went to Job Corps in Knoxville, Tennessee. This is where, instead of focusing on her studies, which was going to be a nursing assistant, that's what she was going to Job Corps for, she met and became absolutely obsessed with a self-proclaimed Satan worshiper named Tadaryl Shipp. But there was one little problem. Christa felt that her new boyfriend Tadaryl had a little thing for another student at Job Corps, Colleen Slemmer. And Colleen was tall, skinny, blonde, pretty. She was everything that Christa Pike was not. And Christa couldn't have someone trying to steal her beloved Tadero. No. So she decided to begin bullying Colleen full force. And mind you, I want to make it very clear, Colleen did not want Tadero. She didn't have a crush on him. She didn't want to try to steal him from her. Nothing. Colleen's mother and friends of both Colleen and Christa all stated that she did not want to be with Tadero. But for whatever reason, Christa just had it out for Colleen. Which, I mean, jealousy is a hell of a drug, man.
I'm telling you.
In a phone call to her mother just weeks before her murder, Colleen said, "There are 3 students who keep stalking me. They come in my room, they take my things, and they threaten me. One girl has even come in my room with knives. She thinks I'm after her boyfriend, but I'm not." Colleen was so distraught over the bullying that she even considered leaving Job Corps and coming home. Her mother, however, reminded her that she had signed a contract requiring her to stay for 6 months and to just write it out because she was almost done. Her mother now regrets that.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
That sucks.
On the night of January 12, 1995, Christa approached Colleen and told her that she wanted to be friends. She wanted to put all of this drama behind them, and she was done with it. She then invited Colleen to walk with her to Blockbuster to rent a movie. And on the way, they would smoke some weed that Christa had hidden in Tyson Park, which apparently was like in between Job Corps and the area where Blockbuster was. Colleen was very relieved and very happy that Christa came to her with a peace offering. Because she didn't want this drama. You know, she didn't want this guy. Like, she wanted just to be friends with everybody. She was a very sweet girl. She even called her mom before they left, and her mother stated that Colleen seemed to be doing a lot better at Job Corps.
Oh,
and that put her at ease. But unfortunately, the feelings of relief and happiness would not last long.
Damn it.
Yeah. Colleen walked to the parking lot to meet Christa and saw 2 other people there with her. Her boyfriend, Tadero Ship, and Christa's friend, Shadola Peterson. Colleen figured that they were all just going to hang out that night and didn't think anything of it that the other 2 students were there to join them. And it honestly probably made her feel a little bit more comfortable because it wasn't just going to be her and Christa.
Yeah.
So the 4 of them began their walk to Tyson Park. And remember, it's January, so it's pretty cold out. They walk deeper and deeper into the woods, and Colleen begins getting nervous at this point because she's probably feeling the weird vibes and is also like, why the fuck are they walking me all the way out into the middle of nowhere? She finally realizes that she may be in danger, and she asks Christa, "There isn't any weed up here, is there?" And Christa smiles at her and says, "No, there isn't." It is at this point that the girls begin arguing. Christa accuses Colleen of trying to steal her boyfriend Tadero. Colleen, again, denies it because she wasn't trying to steal Tadero. Allegedly, Colleen gets tired of Christa yelling at her and she calls her a bitch, which I get it. I mean, Colleen was probably like, what the fuck, man? And that's when all hell breaks loose. Christa begins beating Colleen in the face and head with her fists. Colleen wasn't one to go down without a fight, and she starts yelling back at Christa. This angered Christa, and she begins beating her even harder, and she pulls Colleen by the hair and smashes Colleen's head into her knee.
Ugh.
While Christa is beating the hell out of Colleen, Tadero and Shadala just stand there and watch as Colleen cries and begs for Christa to stop. Christa kept going, beating Colleen to the point where the only thing Colleen could do was roll up in a ball in the fetal position and just try to protect her head with her hands. It's sad.
That sucks.
In between the beatings, Colleen somehow mustered up the energy to run, but Tadero ran after her, tripped her, caused her to fall, and then took Colleen's head and smashed it into the ground. So it's at this point where Tadero joins in.
Fuck this guy.
Yep. Colleen continued fighting for her life, and she continuously tried to flee, but Christa and Tadero just kept catching her, holding her down, and then dragging her back. Christa, getting frustrated that Colleen is still fighting, pulls out a box cutter that she had hidden in her jacket pocket and begins slashing Colleen all over her body. Shadala, realizing that this isn't just a regular old normal fight that Christa said was intended to simply teach Colleen a lesson, she freaks out and starts screaming at Christa that she, quote, needs to do something, i.e. kill Colleen, because Colleen will tell on them. And it's in this moment that Christa realizes there's no turning back from this.
Oh, shit.
Colleen, although badly beaten, was still conscious and continued to beg for her life, even telling Christa that she will walk back to Florida and leave if Christa just lets her go. Christa then hears a noise and panics, thinking that someone had discovered what was going on in the woods. So she actually took a break from beating Colleen to go check it out. So she stopped in the middle of the attack and then went back to viciously slicing her with a box cutter. And I just want to highlight this part because she had a choice. Like, she could have walked away. She didn't have to kill her. She actually went back to finish. So that tells you what kind of person she is.
Where were the other two during this? Had they left or were they just watching?
Shadala was just standing there watching. And a lot of people think that she was just basically there to be a lookout.
Okay.
Tadero, he watched for a little bit, but then he started joining in. And especially when Colleen would like run and try to get away, he would chase her down and, you know, kick her, knock her down, and then they would drag her back to beat her even more.
So he did that more than once.
Yes,
God,
he did that more than once.
Poor thing.
Yep. This was a vicious attack. So after Christa comes back to continue assaulting Colleen, she tells Colleen to remove her clothes. And later, Christa says that she did this in an attempt to make sure Colleen didn't try to run away again. Like, she thinks that if she was naked, maybe she wouldn't run, which is stupid, but whatever. So Colleen removes her jacket, her sweater, and her bra. Christa then reveals a small meat cleaver that she had brought with her, which is more evidence that this was completely premeditated, and she was not planning to just beat up Colleen to teach her a lesson. Like, she brought a box cutter and a fucking meat cleaver. So Christa begins slashing Colleen's throat repeatedly, but Colleen still doesn't die. Christa at this point was growing annoyed with Colleen's sobbing and groaning, and she tied Colleen's mouth shut with a rag. Tadero then takes the box cutter from Christa and carves a pentagram into the skin between Colleen's breasts and then slashes her throat again.
I can't.
And she's still alive. She fucking fought for her life.
It sounds like it.
Christa then takes back the box cutter and carves a 5-pointed star into Colleen's forehead. And again, Colleen was alive at this point, so she felt all of this. And she was also, at the same time, choking and gurgling on her own blood, which only irritated Christa even more. And apparently, Christa at this point started screaming, "Why won't this bitch die?"
Of course she did.
Christa then continues viciously beating Colleen while asking her, "Do you know who is doing this to you?" But Colleen was still alive. So Christa then picks up a large chunk of asphalt and begins repeatedly smashing it into Colleen's skull. Tadero had had enough at this point and told Christa to stop, to which she replied, "No, I want to see her brains."
Ew.
And she continued beating in her head until gray matter started oozing out of it.
Gray matter?
Gray matter. After relentlessly beating, stabbing, mutilating, and attacking Colleen Slemmer for over an hour,
I can't.
her skull finally shattered into pieces and she was dead. Christa then danced around Colleen's lifeless body before bending down to take a piece of Colleen's skull as a souvenir. She put it in her pocket, and the three returned back to Job Corps.
I'm just going to be making noises the rest of this.
Now, it's important to note that in order to leave the Job Corps grounds, you have to sign out and then you have to sign back in upon returning. So even if no one saw the four leaving together and only the three of them coming back, you would still be able to see in the sign-in book that they all left around the same time, but only three came back. And I feel like this highlights just how fucking stupid Christa, Tadaro, and Shadala are. Like, y'all really think that no one would fucking question this?
I mean, clearly they did.
Yeah. Also, Christa had blood all over her jacket and shoes, but instead of getting rid of the shoes, she smeared mud all over her shoes and jeans, thinking that the mud would just cover up the blood and get rid of it, I guess. Again,
stupid asshole.
She ain't the brightest crayon in the Crayola box. On their way back to Job Corps, Christa tells both Tadaro and Shadala to keep quiet about what just happened and to tell no one. She then goes right up to the dorm of her friend Kim and excitedly tells her that she has just murdered Colleen Slemmer. Interestingly, Christa told Kim that she was planning on killing Colleen just the night before, but Kim thought she was bullshitting and never said anything to anyone. And now I want to take a moment to say, normalize overreacting. Okay? I know that people don't want to jump the gun and react by telling authorities things, but guys, if someone comes to you and tells you that they are going to kill someone, fucking believe them and go to the police.
Yes.
Okay? Normalize overreacting. Overreacting in a situation like this is much better than underreacting. It
Right.
literally would have saved a life. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. While Christa is in Kim's dorm room telling her that she murdered Colleen after she told Tadaro and Shadala to keep their fucking mouth shut, which again highlights how fucking stupid Christa is. She pulls out the piece of Colleen's skull from her jacket pocket and shows it to Kim. Again, Kim does nothing and tells no one. The next morning, while eating breakfast, Christa happily tells Kim that she is, quote, eating breakfast with Colleen as she eats her eggs in the cafeteria with the piece of skull in her jacket pocket.
I hate this girl.
Again, Kim does nothing and tells no one. Throughout the day, Christa tells even more friends that she killed Colleen, and she shows them all the piece of the skull. But yeah.
They do nothing?
Yeah, and good thing she told the other two accomplices to keep their mouth shut, right?
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Yeah. Very demure. Very low-key.
Demure.
Yeah.
Demure?
That's another word that I have problems with. Like, what was... The word that I have the most problems with is... You know what it is. Rural.
Rural.
I fucking hate that word. But also, demure.
Yeah.
Did I say it right?
Yeah.
See, I
Demure.
didn't. You know why? Because I didn't try. If I try to say demure, it... Fuck. On the morning of February...
I'm done.
On the morning of Friday, January 13, 1995, the brutally beaten half-naked body of Colleen Slemmer is discovered lying face down and covered in dirt and twigs by a groundskeeper of the University of Tennessee. He then calls the police, and Officer John Johnson is the first on the scene.
If that's not the whitest name I've ever heard. Sorry.
It really is. That man is definitely Caucasian.
100%.
And the scene was disturbing. Like, there were pools of blood everywhere. There was drag marks everywhere. Like, the police could tell that one hell of a fight had taken place. Around 3 p.m., who decides to show up to the crime scene but none other than Christa motherfucking dumbass Pike. And this is wild to me. She walks right up to Officer Harold Underwood and fires off a series of questions, including, do you have any suspects? Do you have any clues? Who's the victim?
What a stupid ass.
The officer noted that Christa was acting really strange and was giggling and dancing. She also made several attempts to bypass the police tape and infiltrate the crime scene. So she tried to go like under the crime scene tape and they were like, bitch, what are you doing? This is a fucking crime scene. You dumb
like,
cunt.
just making sure my DNA's here. That's all.
Right? I don't think I left enough DNA when I murdered her, so I just want to come back and make sure that I left more. YOLO. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious.
Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious.
Yes. Christa did a great job at not being suspicious.
She didn't, but yeah.
The body of Colleen Slemmer was then transported to the medical examiner's office for autopsy. The medical examiner began counting the stab and slash wounds on the body, but lost count at 300. Lost count at 300.
Stab wounds.
Yes.
That's not including the meat cleaver.
This was everything included, stab and slash wounds.
Oh, gosh.
300.
I can't.
There was more than 300. Yeah.
Nope.
She later said that counting every single wound would have taken multiple days. So just like, can you imagine 8-hour days just examining a body and counting every single fucking wound? She said it would have taken her days. Yeah, I guess she was like keeping track of them alphabetically, and she was like starting to go in like triple A's and triple B's, and she was like, there's over 300. Okay, bam.
Yeah, that's
Her cause of death was ruled as blunt force trauma to the head, and the head actually had to be removed from the body to pick out all the pieces of asphalt and pieces of bones that were embedded in her skull. Because at that point, it was like evidence, you know, because that was what was used to kill her.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, word had gotten around Job Corps that a dead body had been discovered in Tyson Park, and students, having heard the details from Christa Pike, the queen of subtlety herself, were beginning to put 2 and 2 together, and they started contacting the police. Fucking finally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even though, like, her friends, they didn't say anything, in their defense, they were all teenagers, and teenagers say dumb shit.
Yeah.
Maybe they thought she was just fucking with them. But also, if someone shows you a piece of skull, maybe you should call the police. I don't know.
Even if you think it's like a piece of an animal skull or even like a rock that they found.
Again,
You know,
it's better to overreact than underreact, right?
People are dumb.
Normalize overreacting. So the police came to Job Corps to question Christa, Taddaryl, and Shadala. The 3 were taken to the police station, and officers barely read Christa her Miranda rights before she happily confessed to the murder in painstaking detail. And the cops were probably like, well, shit, that was easy.
Done.
Yeah. Christa handed all of the grisly details as well as her confession over to the police on a silver platter. She even went as far as reenacting what happened. They ended up taking her to the location in Tyson Park, and she showed them where everything happened. She acted it out. She danced around, showed them how she danced around the body. She's a sick fuck.
I mean, yes.
Yeah. Investigators also learned that Crystal and Taddaryl had nicknames for each other. Christa was Little Devil, which she actually had tattooed above one of her titties. Classy. And Taddaryl was lovingly referred to as Baby Satan. Aren't they cute?
No, I hate them.
Taddaryl, aka Baby Satan, who was just 17 years old at the time, took a little longer to interrogate because they needed permission from his parents. But he soon caved very quickly as well. Shadala, on the other hand, stated that she had zero idea of Christa's plan to kill Colleen and insisted that she was just under the impression that Christa was going to beat her up and that would be that. Shadala denied any involvement whatsoever, but I'm going to go ahead and call bullshit on that because, number one, Christa told people that she was going to kill Colleen. She told people this.
Yeah, the night before.
The night before, yep. And number two, Shadala was the one who screamed at Christa that she needed to, quote, do something about it because they would all be caught. Regardless, even though she was there, it's important to note that she was a bystander who was also a teenager. And we all know that we do dumb things as kids. Maybe she was scared to stand up to Christa, which is understandable because Christa was very clearly pretty fucking violent. But who knows? She could have stepped in, though.
She could have.
They could have stopped
They
her.
both could have.
They could have. Her and Tadaro could have overpowered Christa, but they didn't. I feel like Shadala did know what was going to go down, but does that make her a murderer? No. Still would have been great if she would have tried to defuse the situation and not egg her on, but here we are.
Yeah.
And with that, Christa Pike, Tadaro Shipp, and Shadala Peterson were arrested and charged with the first-degree murder of Colleen Slemmer. Police then contacted Colleen's mother to let her know that she had been murdered. Colleen's mother, May, then drove to Tennessee. I get choked up at this part because this part makes me upset. I'm going to start crying probably.
Don't cry.
Colleen's mother, May, drove to Tennessee to look at the body and the removed head of her daughter to make a positive identification. And afterwards, oh my God, this is hard. Afterwards, she went to the Job Corps facility to get her daughter's belongings. All May was able to recover were a few pairs of Colleen's socks, as her dorm had been completely ransacked and everything that her daughter owned had been stolen.
Are you kidding?
No. I can't even imagine something like that happening to my daughter. Like, it makes me physically ill. And then she goes, I'm gonna start crying. She goes to pick up her stuff, and all that was left were socks.
I know. Stop. You're going to make me cry. All right, time out, guys. I got to go get my girl tissue.
All right, let me get it together.
Ugh. Now I feel bad because I'm not crying. Am I a bitch?
It's just because I watched like a bunch of shit. Yeah. Oh, let me take a break. Sorry, guys. I got emotional because I watched a lot of like documentaries on this, and I'll link all the sources. But her mom did interviews on every single one of them, and her mom is still.
There's no getting over that.
No. It is so fucking sad. It's just so sad, and it makes me think of my daughter.
I know. I can't think of it like that because then I will just go into a deep depression.
I know.
A little bit of ASMR for y'all, just for a break. Palate cleanser, if you will.
Ugh.
Little coffee. Pouring you a cup of coffee. Enjoy. Just spilled it all over my pants. It's fine.
All right. So now that we took a little break and had some Starbies, I would just like to say that Christa, Tadaro, and Shadala, you can all respectfully get fucked sideways with a chainsaw.
Yes.
That's all I've got. This girl did absolutely nothing to them. Nothing. She didn't bully them. She didn't provoke them. Mm-mm. This was all done because some nasty ass bitch was jealous of her.
For no reason. And like, you took away someone's baby. How the fuck do you sleep at night? Pieces of fucking shit is all I'm saying. Shadala Peterson immediately cut a deal, and in exchange for her testimony against Christa Pike, received only 6 years probation, no jail time. Are you serious?
Yep. And this pisses me off because it's like, you didn't even need her testimony, okay? Because there's DNA evidence. They found objects in Christa and Tadaro's room that had blood on them that linked them to Colleen. Both admitted to everything they fucking did. Why would you cut a deal with her? You didn't need her testimony. You didn't need anything. You had everything you needed.
Exactly.
Ugh.
Yeah, don't.
The trial of Christa Pike began in March of 1996. Her defense team did the textbook move of making sure that their client looked as sweet and innocent as possible, dressing her in a dress with a lace collar and having her wild hair pulled back to look sleek. She even had a white ribbon tied in her hair in an attempt to make her look younger and more angelic. And as a defense paralegal, I can confirm that this is an actual tactic. And just side note, one case that I worked on like way back in the day at one of the old firms that I worked at, I remember specifically in a meeting, one of the attorneys that I worked with told one of our clients who was a defendant, make sure that your curly hair is straightened and sleek so you present a more put together persona. So this is a real thing.
So now you can't have curly hair?
They like it to be sleek because they think curly looks like unruly and unmanageable.
Okay. I don't know. But you also see this tactic with women like Casey Anthony and Jodi Arias. They're trying to look as innocent as possible. And when I say the trial is theater, I am dead ass serious. Trial is theater, okay? Yeah. All that matters is getting the jury on your side. That's it. You sway a jury, it's a slam dunk, period.
You win.
But the jury was not at all impressed with Christa Pike. Despite presenting herself as an innocent angelic child, she acted extremely cavalier and remorseless in the courtroom. She actually even smiled and waved at people and laughed with her attorney. Also, passed notes back and forth with her mother.
Okay, Wade Wilson.
And juries see this shit, and it does make a difference.
I bet it does.
And also, Colleen's mother, May, saw this, and it really pissed her off because this person killed her daughter, and now she's just like laughing and passing notes back and forth with her mom.
Yeah, and her mom gets to see her daughter.
Exactly. That's exactly what her mom said. The trial itself was relatively uneventful, despite one sensational decision made by the prosecution team. For whatever reason, they decided to use the actual skull of Colleen Slemmer that had been amputated from her body during the autopsy and passed it along to jury members.
Shoo.
As they were passing the skull, pieces of it were falling everywhere. So Colleen's mother, May, had to watch total strangers handling the skull of her murdered daughter and can only sit there while pieces of the skull detached and fell off.
Nope.
How she did not like jump over I cannot even fucking imagine.
No.
Horrific. The trial.
How are they allowed to do that? I'm sorry. I know I just had to get a visual. I can't.
I don't know. I think that they did it for shock value, and honestly it did work.
Yeah.
But they could have done like a plaster like what's the word? Not reenactment.
Like a mold or something.
Yes, they could have done like a plaster mold of the skull to show where, the blows were and everything. They didn't do that. The trial also shed some light on the satanic aspect of it because remember, this was during the height of the late 80s, early 90s satanic panic era. Tadaro allegedly was the one who got Christa into quote unquote practicing Satanism. And I'm rolling my eyes at this because I can guarantee that they were not like actual practicing members of the Church of Satan.
No.
They no doubt did this for shock value and to seem like cool and edgy because they were both fucking losers. There was also a friend who testified that Christa told people that her and Tadaro were going to perform a quote unquote sacrifice and that Colleen was their target. But who knows? There was also a lot of satanic panic shit said at the trials of Damian Eccles and Jason Baldwin of the West Memphis 3, and we all know how that turned out. It was all a bunch of lies and bullshit.
Yeah.
So, little disclaimer here. I'm going to talk about the Satanic Temple for a second, and I know people can get a little crotchety about religion, so I just want to take a moment to say that I am in no way affiliated with this religion or any religion for that matter. I'm just stating facts. The Satanic Temple actually does not believe in murder or sacrifices. To the contrary, per their website, the mission of the Satanic Temple is to encourage benevolence and empathy, reject tyrannical authority, advocate practical common sense, oppose injustice, and undertake noble pursuits. I did extensive research on this and found that the Satanic Temple actually has 7 fundamental tenets. And tenet 1 states, one should strive to act with compassion and empathy towards all creatures in accordance with reason. And call me crazy, but this doesn't really seem to align with the acts committed by Christa Pike and Tadaro Shipp the night that they brutally murdered Colleen.
No, it doesn't,
right?
Does it?
And this is why it's so fucking important to do your own research on topics to form an educated opinion on facts and not just blindly listen and believe things that are spoon-fed to you. This is why the satanic panic era of the late 80s, early 90s occurred. This is why.
Yeah.
But I digress. It took the jury less than 3 hours to come back with a guilty verdict. This actually did make Christa cry because she knew that prosecutors were seeking the death penalty. Carissa, Christa's mother, actually had the balls to approach Colleen's mother, May, and ask her if she would consider talking to the prosecution and changing their minds to life in prison. And May was like, no. Nope. She was like, no, death penalty. Bye.
Yeah, deuces.
During the penalty phase of the trial, the defense team did their best to convince the jury to not sentence Christa to death. They brought friends and family members on the stand to testify about the horrific childhood that Christa had, including multiple incidents of sexual abuse, rape, physical abuse, mental abuse, and neglect. It was also revealed that Christa had brain damage that actually occurred in the womb from her mother being an alcoholic the entire time she was pregnant. But try as they may, the sympathy card did not work on the jury.
Good.
And on March 30, 1996, Christa Pike was sentenced to death by way of electrocution, making her not only the second woman ever sentenced to death row in Tennessee, but also the youngest woman to ever be sentenced to death row in the entire United States of America. So this was a huge deal. Christa's shock and sadness over her death sentence was short-lived, and it soon turned to extreme anger. And she decided to vent her frustrations in a letter to her beloved Taddaryl, which read, and I quote, "You see what I get for trying to be nice to the hoe? I went ahead and bashed her brains out so she'd die quickly instead of letting her bleed to death and suffer more, and they fucking fry me? Ain't that some shit? I have 10 months left to live. Imagine that. I'd spend every moment if I could with you. Also, tell your lawyer if he wants me to testify for you, I will. Love you for the rest of my life. Love, little devil." And Christa does have a southern accent, so don't fucking come for me, okay? I'm just trying to give you an authentic cinematic experience.
Yeah, you're welcome.
This letter really bit her in the ass because it was actually turned over to the judge. And the judge actually read it in court shortly after her murder conviction because she was also brought up on charges for conspiracy to commit murder separately. And the judge said, and I quote, "I am convinced you care about no one but yourself."
Good.
And the judge then sentenced Christa to an additional 25 years in prison to run consecutively with her death sentence. So she is fucked every which way.
Good.
In every hole. Taddaryl didn't have much luck in the courtroom either, and he was eventually found guilty of murder in the first and subsequently sentenced to life in prison. The only thing that saved him from the death penalty was the fact that he was a juvenile when the murder took place. He was only 17 years old. Now, as I explained in a prior episode about the Menendez brothers, life in prison does not equal life in prison. A true sentence of life in prison would be a sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole.
That was the first time I learned that.
Yeah, it's very,
case.
very confusing, and it makes no sense, which is pretty much our entire judicial system.
It's true.
But I digress. Unfortunately for planet Earth, Taddaryl's ship is up for parole next year in 2026.
Shit.
Do I think he has any shot of getting released? No, but stranger things have happened in the legal field, so fuck if I know. The Knoxville Job Corps was closed indefinitely a few years after the murders, and interestingly, the crime rate in Knoxville immensely decreased after the closing of the Job Corps facility.
What? No.
Yeah, and crime rates decreased to normal levels. So that just goes to show you how fucking sketchy that place was. The building was ultimately demolished in 2015 to the relief of Colleen's mother, who told WBIR Knoxville News, "It's about time. It should have been taken down 20 years ago." Agreed.
Agreed.
Christa Pike has had a somewhat interesting life in prison, and she certainly has not been quiet or docile or demure.
Demure.
In fact, in 2001, Christa strangled fellow prison mate Patricia Jones with a shoestring during a fire drill at the prison.
I can't.
She didn't strangle her to death, but she fucking tried. And she was subsequently tried and convicted of attempted murder in 2004. In 2012, Christa was in the headlines yet again when a former prison guard and her new boyfriend conspired together to help Christa escape from prison. Luckily, their plans were foiled and both men were charged with bribery and conspiracy to commit escape. And all I'm saying is that Christa Pike must have a vagina made of gold or something, because the chokehold that she has on this man to help her do all kinds of fucked up shit is honestly fucking impressive. In 2024, so just last year, Christa was awarded a settlement with the state of Tennessee, which brought her the opportunity to have more time out of her cell and also interactions with other inmates. Not really sure that this is such a great idea considering she tried murdering someone in prison.
I mean, that's, yeah.
But what do I know? I am just some bitch.
Some bitch.
Krista's execution has been delayed several times due to numerous appeals as well as the COVID-19 pandemic. And as of today, in 2025, there's still no official execution date. As we all know, the ethical method of death is now lethal injection. But, little fun fact, in the state of Tennessee, where this crime occurred, the electric chair is still offered as an option to inmates who were sentenced to death before a certain date. So, yes. Inmates can actually choose the electric chair instead of lethal injection. Isn't that crazy? The last execution by electric chair occurred as recently as 2018.
Really?
Yeah. Crazy, right?
That's interesting.
You guys know that I'm not really an advocate for the death penalty, but in this case...
Say it. Say it.
Christa is not... She is not rehabilitatable. Is that a word? Rehabilitatable?
Sure. We're going to make it one if it's not.
Yeah.
I think it is.
Christa Pike is not rehabilitatable, okay? She's gone.
She gone.
She gone, girl. I'm okay with seeing her get the electric chair because any bitch who makes me cry over shit that she did can get fucked and die. It takes a lot to make me cry. You guys all know this.
We do. Listen, I think instead of the electric chair or lethal injection,
she should be stabbed to death for an hour. And have a pentagram carved in between her chest.
You know how I feel about the death penalty. Like, eye for an eye, bitch. Like, especially like if you hurt an animal, I'm gonna hurt you that way.
Yeah.
Unless it's for food. Like, if you kill somebody, I'm gonna kill you that way.
I get it. I get it. I just feel that it should be more of like a circumstance type deal. Like, there are... We've talked about this before, but if there are no aggravating circumstances and if someone just kills someone for absolutely no fucking reason, not in self-defense, not because they were bullied, not because they were provoked. Yeah. I mean, I see how the death penalty would be appropriate.
Yeah. And there are always certain circumstances.
Yeah.
Like,
it's not black and white.
Right. People that aren't old enough to realize the decisions that they're making.
Exactly.
People that have a mental disorder that can be rehabilitated and then placed in some sort of a home.
Right. People, and be monitored.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. There are certain circumstances that I feel like it should be looked over.
Yeah, agreed.
There's always lobotomies.
Right. And you know, the legal field, it's not black and white, and it's not even black, white, and gray. It's like literally every color of the fucking rainbow. I know that sounds really lame, but
no,
we have to look at cases individually. We have to look at circumstances individually. In Christa's circumstance, I personally do not feel that there is any possibility of rehabilitation for her. She has continuously shown that she is not fit to be amongst people in society.
Yeah, fuck that bitch.
She's done nothing to better herself, okay? She just tried to kill someone like a little over 10 years ago.
Right. That's
she tried to, she tried to orchestrate an escape from prison. She's still manipulating people. She still has violent tendencies.
Right.
There's no hope for her. There's just none.
I don't feel like there are. I don't feel like there are. I don't feel like there is.
No. Nope. But we'll see what happens with this case because it is still active. She's still on death row, no execution date. So I'm sure we'll have an update to this. But I just can't get over how fucking stupid this whole thing is. Like how absolutely pointless the death of Colleen Slemmer was. It's just senseless.
It was senseless. And what hurts my heart is that there were so many people that could have stopped it.
Correct.
They could have helped.
Yeah.
And they chose to stand by and watch and let someone be brutally murdered.
Correct.
It sucks.
And to me, that just tells me what kind of person you are to the core. Because I know me personally, no matter what age, I could not idly stand by and watch someone be fucking shredded like that. No. I just couldn't. I don't know.
Same.
But, I was browsing comments on YouTube on a documentary that I watched, and I saw the most amazing comment that I wanted to end this podcast with and share with all of you. And it read, quote, "Imagine ruining your entire life over a dude named Daryl." And man, if that is not the most fucking accurate statement I've ever read on a YouTube comment section.
I mean, it's pretty accurate.
Daryl.
Yeah, I hate that. I wasn't going to say anything in the beginning, but I've hated that name every
time
you say it.
It's fucking awful.
It's a bad name.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, multiple lives completely ruined for absolutely no fucking reason other than pure jealousy. And that's the story of the horrific and senseless murder of Colleen Slemmer.
I hated it.
I know.
You did a great job covering it, though.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You still have tears in your eyes, guys. She still has tears in her eyes. I'm going to go.
It's a really sad story. And I said on another podcast that I got into true crime because my Grammy took me to go buy books. This book right here, it's called A Love to Die For, and I'll put it in the episode notes. It's a very good source. And I think I first read that book when I was in like 5th grade.
Oh, wow.
So this case has always been like almost personal to me.
Yeah.
And I've followed it ever since. And in that book, there are very, very graphic pictures of Colleen Slemmer's body.
Ugh.
They are in black and white, but they are still very disturbing.
Yeah.
And again, seeing those as a 5th grader, it left an impression on me,
Yeah.
And just seeing what they did to her, it's heartbreaking. But I feel like this story is important. It needs to be told,
Yeah.
Yeah. Do something nice in Colleen's memory today.
Yeah, draw a picture. Plant a tree.
Do something. She deserves to be remembered.
Yeah. Oh.
But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the story, Enjoyed as much as you can, I guess.
Well, I mean, that was a good one.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Youngest person on death row. Let's get her off of death row and get her out of this world. Please.
Yeah.
Please and thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. See you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday. Don't be one.
Be one.
Bye.
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 I can't believe I started crying during that.